never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? And yes, we've managed to get the computer going, even if I'm sitting here blowing and fanning cold air upon it at every opportunity I possibly can. Yeah, sorry about last night. After I set the show up, the whole thing just literally shut down and would not come back to life again until about 11 o'clock last night, where we've had a bit of a play. Vince has been into it today and had a bit of a look. We do have a problem with it. It has something to do with silver paste and heat. We will endeavour to try and fix that over the near future because God knows can't afford a new laptop. That's just the way things are progressing. But look, it sits in a hot bus all day and does an awful lot of work. So I should be grateful it's lasted this long, I think, rather than getting stuck into it. At any rate, I do apologise for missing you last night. And luckily enough, I was able to get Nick back for tonight. Thankfully, he's not out doing the things that these blokes tend to do in country towns, play basketball and tennis and all this sort of stuff while they're enjoying daylight savings, unlike us in Queensland. So please, from Billboard Battalion, welcome. Nick, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, Carl. Hi, viewers. How you going?
You've been on the road with Wade for, well, as long as Wade's been on the road, mate. So you're used to understanding the trials and tribulations of computer issues on the road. You actually have a business that looks after computers as well. So you're a very handy man to have on the road.
Yeah, I do a fair bit of that on the road, and when we're home here, do a fair bit of it all over the place.
Yeah, mate. How's the weather? How's it all looking? Have you got fuel?
It's fairly windy at the moment, but we had a heap of rain 2 weekends ago. I had water everywhere, but it's mostly gone now. Fuel. I haven't had any issues. I've spoken to a number of farmers, and they seem to be getting their normal deliveries onto their farms. Some of them might be a little bit lower amounts than normal, but none of them have seemed too stressed about it so far. But once we get closer to sowing, if things don't change, the possibility might get worse. I was talking yesterday to the owner of a local general store, and she said that she put in an order to a fuel distributor yesterday, and they said that it would be here today. And there were no issues there. So I haven't spoken to her today, but I'm assuming it's arrived today. She didn't know what the price was going to be. So she hadn't yet put up her pricing at all since all this has started. And she said she's not going to until her price has gone up for what she's paid. So
it's been passed down through the system to her. Yeah.
So
what about fertilizer? Is that a concern coming into the planting season? Is that as big or even a bigger concern to farmers than fuel?
I haven't heard a lot talking about it, so I'm probably not real up to date, but it's certainly a concern. It's always if there's going to be a shortage of that, and I know I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and I really can't remember the details, but I think their agronomist or their supplier or someone was telling them that they needed to be ordering it well and truly in advance. So, don't people just take that completely right, because I might be getting the details a bit wrong now, but I think there's a bit of concern out there.
I've certainly heard things even as late as today where particularly certain kinds of fertilizer comes from the Middle East. So not that everything comes through the Straits of Hormuz, but there could well be a pinch point added there in the future. Anyway, we'll get away from the trials and tribulations of the land and get back into the trials and tribulations surrounding Billboard Battalion. Now, just after Christmas, our great mate Wade had a bit of an issue, suffered a stroke, and has been in recovery ever since. So we have been talking about it most nights this week, and you and I have been talking behind the scenes, as have Belinda and I, and we thought it best to get one of you guys on for a bit of a chat to just try and bring us up to date with a clear picture, if you like, without divulging too many personal details away. Just how Wade's doing and some expectations around people. I know there are a lot of people that want to visit him. I get probably 10 or 15 requests a day. Oh, can you tell us where Wade is? We're traveling. We'll call in and say hi. And I'm knocking them back. So do you just want to explain, why that sort of thing's happening at the moment?
Yeah. So Wade needs rest. He's getting worked very hard with all the rehab. So when he's not doing that, he needs a lot of time to rest and to get some sleep. So at this stage, we can't really be letting visitors in but all that much. We have to keep that fairly limited. So we've got that and other reasons why we're just wanting to keep the location of what hospital he's in to ourselves at the moment. Sorry.
I'm no neurologist, but I would imagine that any kind of extra stimulation for the brain in this form of, or this phase of his recovery is probably not really required. They want to try and keep him as calm as possible or as centered as possible. So
he does need some certain sorts of stimulation some of the time, but he also needs a lot of time to rest. So you're basically right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he celebrated his birthday recently. He had a big smile on his face, and there were a few good friends gathered around, including you. So I think when people saw that, they thought, he's really on the way to recovery. But there is a way to go, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Look, he's going well, but it's going to take a while. So unfortunately, it's just something people are just going to have to wait for. Unfortunately, we're all. I think he should make a fairly good recovery, but it's going to take a while. So I'm not sure how long it's going to be. It could be a few months, or it could be quite a bit longer than that. We'll just see. But we're quite happy with how he's going at this stage. We did have some issues earlier on with things that were going on in the hospital, but he's now in the rehab ward, and they've just been terrific in there. The nurses, the therapists, the OTs, all the other people he's seeing, they're all lovely. They're getting on great with him. He gives them a fair bit of stick, and they give him a lot back. They give as good as they get from him. So there's a lot of laughing and joking and stuff going on. I think he's pretty popular in there. Really, there was one time a few weeks ago where they actually, because his rehab's only on weekdays, and they asked him to take part in a thing where they were training some of the new, I can't remember the details exactly, but some of the therapists or whatever, they asked him to be part of that. So he got an extra day of rehab out of that. So, the hospital is doing a pretty good job. We're fairly happy with everything there. So we did have some issues.
We should explain. I may have overstated things a little bit in my exuberance the other night when I started rallying and trying to get neurologists and all that kind of thing. You and I have had a conversation since then where had I railed and we'd moved him to Melbourne, it might have been exactly the wrong thing to do. Because according, to the conversation you and I have had there, he actually has a better chance of seeing a more senior neurologist where he is.
Well, not in person, but it's hard to know exactly. But I believe he's seeing a fairly senior neurologist by video conference, whereas not sure what would happen down in Melbourne. Listening to different people, you get different stories. So it's really hard to know what you would end up with in regards to all sorts of things if he was moved down there. So there seems to be pros and cons to both.
Wade's family is all around that area.
That's right. So there's all different things to weigh up, but I think at this stage the bureaucracy has made it clear that that's not going to happen. He is where he is, and Um,
And
yeah,
they're working him. They're doing what they can. The rehab's going really well. And you're saying
yeah. So,
he's actually gaining benefit from the rehab. You were saying?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's massively better than what he was. He's still got quite a bit to go, but they're working him hard for several hours, 5 days a week. They got all different people, all the different what they call allied health professionals coming in and doing all their different things with him. So yeah, they're doing a good job.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we can ask for, that he's being looked after, cared for. Some people I know, I've had a lot of people ring and let me know that they've sent some donations into you. We were talking, while it's all well and good that, Wade can get a good feed from anywhere he likes these days now, there might be call for these funds that have been donated, to be used in a different way down the track if he needs some sort of, I don't know, monitoring or something at home when they eventually get him home.
Yeah, so look, we have been the food at the hospital is I would say pretty good. They fed me once or twice there, and I couldn't complain about the quality of the food. The nurses just brought in extra plates for us, so that was nice. Wade's often said the food's good. I've spoken to other people in the hospital, other patients, and they seem quite complimentary about that. There's some concerns about nutritional requirements, and we have been getting him some extra food, just really good quality food to meet certain nutritional requirements that we're not quite sure about whether the hospital food is necessarily ideal for. But we've been doing that, and I think in terms of all sorts of things, when he gets back home, we're not sure what's going to be needed yet. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving away from Wade, something that you guys have been, I mean, I know you're focused on issues right around the country, as we all are, but the ones close to home with you guys at the moment are V&I West and the imposition of these transmission lines on people's properties. The Victorian government has made it very obvious that they don't really care what the owners of these properties believe, and they've now rammed through legislation that allows the electricity companies to compulsorily purchase whatever land and access they require. I'm not sure that you've even had much time to speak to farmers in the areas affected, but do you have any idea how that's been received?
Yeah, so just to give slight more detail to that, what I understand has happened is I think they already had the ability to compulsory acquire land under certain circumstances, but what they've done now, this new legislation, it gives them the authority to acquire land before the environmental effects statement has been finalised. So I understand that's basically what's changed, and I'm not as across it as what I normally would be, just with everything else we've had going on. But I believe that's what's been changed.
That significant difference means that up until that point, they had to be allowed on the property to do an environmental impact assessment of the land that they were going to compulsorily acquire, and in fact, that's where we found you guys last, somewhere around Manu on the side of a road protecting a paddock there. This new legislation does away with that bloke turning up at the gate and saying, I'd like to come on the property and do this assessment, because they don't want the assessment anymore. They can just say, we're buying that bit of land, regardless of the environmental impact. I
believe so, yes. I think they still have to do the environmental effects statement, but they can acquire the land beforehand. Now, of course, the environmental effects statement is just a complete sham anyway. They just the predetermined outcome for all these things. So they're going to get the environmental effects statement done, but I think this is just speeding up the process.
Yeah. How's the feeling amongst farmers?
So I was speaking to one farmer a few days ago. He's not in the area affected directly by the VNI West, but he's got other solar and wind projects going on nearby him. And I believe his words were that people are not going to take this and that things are going to turn what'll hit the fan.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've heard other people saying that no one will tolerate it. And these are all people that I've just been talking to locally here that aren't going to be directly affected by those projects. So it's hard to know what people will actually do when the time comes, but I think there's a lot of anger out there.
Yeah. Well, as Wayne's put here, I wouldn't want to be that dozer driver trying to push the run in off the side of the road.
Yeah, that's right. So no, I wouldn't want to be. But at the end of the day, they're doing a job and they're choosing to do it, and they're receiving financial gain from doing it. So they're part of the problem.
Yeah, and I'm blown away that. Well, it doesn't really surprise me. I suppose the Victorian Labor government, they seem to have no regard whatsoever. The properties that they're impinging on aren't properties that have just been owned by somebody for the last couple of years. We are talking properties that have been owned by the same family for generations, that was settled by the great-great-great-grandfather of the person who's sitting on it right now. That obviously elicits a great deal of passion from those people who are on those properties.
That's right. Yes, definitely. It's shocking that it happens to anyone, but it's even worse, arguably, in those circumstances. But I think there probably needs to be circumstances where they can push through infrastructure against landowners' wishes. However, this infrastructure should not be being built. They are deliberately setting it up so as we're going to run out of energy. And so therefore that makes it 100 times worse. Yeah. Everyone understands this renewable rubbish isn't going to work. Like there's not everyone, but most of
anybody
the local farmers
anybody with a clear thinking mind, anybody with a clear thinking mind and who can read the lay of the land even now. Renewables are not capable of giving us the power that we require in this country 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, much less what we are expecting to need in the next 10 to 50 years.
That's right. And the important thing, and what it's so hard to get people to say publicly, is that's the intention. They're doing it deliberately. They are deliberately setting this up to run us out of energy. And that's when people won't say that, it doesn't get the urgency of the situation across to the general public.
Now, I know you really probably haven't had time, or even if you're really into the politics of the state, but are you aware of any opposition moves against this? And, maybe the Victorian Liberal opposition standing up to say we will revoke all of this bullshit if we are elected in November?
Not really. One Nation are saying a fair bit against it.
Yep.
But
the Liberal Party, by and large, are supporting it, are they?
The Liberals and the Nationals in particular are having a lot to say about it, but this has been set up over a period of several decades, and they've been completely involved with it at all too. So I mean, they say these things when they're in opposition, but if they ever get back into government, I'm not convinced they'll do anything to roll it back. You only have to look at their track record. They haven't done it in the past. Right. They've pushed it all the way through. So,
if we're able to keep them off the land until November, until that election, as long as there is no significant infrastructure that it's been actually brought in and built, which they get to a point of no return where it costs them more to tear it down than it does to set it up. I would hope that whoever is going to contest that election in November will make this one of the serious issues. Is there a lot
So
of support from the townies, like in towns the size you're in, for instance? Is there a lot of support from the townies for the folks on the land? Because I know they're not getting it from the city.
oh well, you go into some of the nearby towns a bit, I mean, where the action is, where it's happening, and there's a lot of signs up against it. There's places like over at Birchip, for instance, where it's just completely ripped the whole community apart. You got people getting literally run off roads, and that people are fighting something shocking. It's terrible, and we certainly don't want that happening. I can see little bits and pieces starting to go on around here, which is a concern. That's the last thing we want, but nothing like that. But and then these people are just experts at this kind of making this kind of division happen. So look, there's one of the bigger country towns around here, there's a number of signs when you go in. You're talking to the people in the shops and that. I find most people they have at least a basic idea that there's something wrong with it all, and they're not in favour of it. So I think and I think there is support there. I don't know what that's going to translate to into action, but I think also, like, we've done a lot of stuff in the city, particularly in Melbourne, and we've had a terrific response from the city people when they actually understand what's going on, when it's communicated to them properly. So I think there's a lot of city people that, like, when late last year, or I don't know when it was, October, November, December, we were doing a lot of stuff with this, and we had people from Melbourne and elsewhere, Canberra, even wanting to come down to support the local farmers around here when they were blockading their farms. So I think there's support coming in from the city as well.
Yeah, I wonder if that can translate at the voter box, which is sort of where I was going with that. If we can get the townies in the regional areas, clearly Melbourne being the largest population centre in Victoria, with close to 5 million people, and probably 3 of those are able to vote. We really need to unite regional Victoria behind a party that will essentially support regional Victoria.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of faith in the polls, but One Nation seem to be getting big numbers. I know around here, everyone I talk to, people are always saying they're going to be voting for One Nation. So that's a promising change.
So what's going to happen in Farah in the next couple of weeks then, with the by-election just up the road from you around Albury and sort of across to New South Wales there? That's going to be pretty significant for Victoria as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting. Look, I'm a few hours from there, so I don't know, apart from people in the freedom movement, I don't know too many people up there. So I can't give you an on the ground report of what people are saying up there, just the general community. But I would assume it'll be similar to what's going on here. And I think everyone's just had a gutful of all the major parties.
Yep, that's the way we're feeling, I think, in most of the circles that I'm moving in Queensland and New South Wales. It's almost at a point where, and I was sitting around a table the other day having a discussion with some people, and somebody that we would ordinarily term pretty unawake proudly stood up and said, we're going to have to vote for One Nation. They can't do any worse than what's happened to us with successive Liberal and Labor governments. And I guess there is an element of truth to that. I think things can always get worse. But what harm would we do to let One Nation have a go for 4 years? We've seen what harm Labor can do in 4 years, and then we give them more. I don't know how that works. But I suggest that One Nation are filling their ranks with quality members, and from those quality members there are extremely capable, extremely experienced candidates standing up. I don't know how much you know about particularly the Labor politicians that stand up in the regional areas. You know if any of them actually have ever run a business, or have they all just worked for government somewhere? It seems to be the way it is.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any that have. I'm not saying there isn't any, but I'm not aware of them. Certainly certainly One Nation do have a lot of quality people, and we've been lucky enough to meet a lot of them. I at least with One Nation, they seem to be well intentioned, which is a lot better than what can be said for a lot of them from the major parties.
So just on that point, I was fortunate to spend a week in Canberra with you and Wade last November, and my recollection of that is that you guys got a lot of access behind the scenes. You were able to get in and talk to the politicians and have those sorts of conversations. Do you like what I'm getting at is you've seen the machinations behind the public face of Parliament. Now, if let's say One Nation can get a number of and a big number of new faces into that place, how do you feel that their positivity, their experience, their willingness to do great things for this nation is going to be tempered by the bureaucrats that you see in that place essentially running it?
Well, I haven't had a great deal to do with the bureaucrats. I guess the closest you could say to that is the advisors in the politicians' offices, and the ones we've been dealing with in the One Nation offices have all been terrific, and they seem to be really switched on and keen to do the right thing by the country. We've dealt with a number in particularly the coalition parties, and I've found generally they seem to be fairly decent sorts of people too. These advisors that we've been dealing with, and there's only been not that many of them. Certainly talking to the staffers in the politicians' offices on the phone and by email, for Liberal, Labor, Nationals and Greens, it's very, very difficult to get through to the politicians in most cases, and I think that's by design. Getting to them is extremely difficult. When you're walking around the corridors in Parliament House, you just run into them, so that bypasses that problem. If they're brave enough to come out of their offices that day.
No, I guess you guys stand out in your shirts too, because you're about the brightest thing in that place when you're walking around. So
well, we've got our shirts. They're all different colours and they stick out everywhere we go, including in Parliament House. And red, green, and pink. So I think might have been a bit of good design went into the multiple colours.
Absolutely. My concern has always been that regardless of the quality and range of great people that we might be able to get elected, be that independently or with a party, I think they're going to be hamstrung by the bureaucracy that actually is the grease in the system. And it's only grease when it wants to be. It's usually sand, something that grinds the system to a halt or at least slows it down. We need people in that place who will resist that, in fact, change that. And all the excuses that the bureaucrats will be able to come out with, oh, no, we've got to do it this way for this reason or that reason. I'm sure there are some very good reasons to go slow in some areas, but in areas where it is clear there is ineptitude or fraud, corruption, then these bureaucrats, instead of covering for each other, need to be taken out and made examples. And I would hope that One Nation and anybody who can get in under an independent banner are strong enough to resist them in that place and make that happen. Have you ever thought about running for politics?
Not seriously. No. It's not something that I want to do. I'm not really into all this public speaking. Just doing something like this isn't really my thing. I was normally more than happy to let Wade do the talking.
How do you think he'd go as a politician? I think he should become the head of the National Farmers Federation, just between you, me, and the gatepost. At least I know he'd answer the bloody phone.
Yeah, well, I don't think the National Farmers Federation would be very keen on that idea. Yeah. Look, our position is, everyone's always saying Wade should run for politics. Well, we're of the opinion that we can achieve more doing what we're doing with Billboard Battalion, working outside of the system and working at the system from outside rather than trying to work from inside. So and we're just our own outfit. We can say and do what we want, and we don't have anyone that can shut us down or tell us you can't say that, you can't do that. So that's a freedom that we may not necessarily have if we were working as politicians.
Yeah, I agree, because you've got to worry about other people's feelings then, I guess.
That's right.
Or, in fact, in politics, there are no feelings. What you have to worry about is the knives the bastards will draw and throw into your back.
That's right.
At every opportunity. So, yeah, and who wants to go and live and work in an industry like that? Oh, wait, I did for 40 years in radio. But, yeah, it's not a pleasant thing to be doing. All right, Nick, look, I won't hold you up any longer. I know your days are long at the moment, and you're probably going to wind up back in the hospital tonight, are you, or at some stage? So
no, I'm not heading back to the hospital now. So, yeah.
All right, done well. Well, thank you for the update. Is there anything that you would like to let people know, just wrapping up with regard to Wade?
Well, first, I thought of it before. Really would just really love to thank everyone so much for all of the support that so many people have given and offered us in so many ways. We've had people donating money to help with Wade. We've had people who've given us large amounts of meals that they've made up. We've had at one stage here, like I was getting 2, 3, 4 cards and letters in the mail every day. So many phone calls, messages, all these things. It's just so many wonderful people care so much. So it's just so nice to see.
There an address? Is there an address you want to put out, where people might be able to send a card, or is that something you're sort of keeping to yourself?
Yeah, no, I can give you an address. I don't know whether you want me to read it out now or just tell you later.
Say it now, mate, and I'll write it down while you're saying it, and I'll stick it in the thing. So
if you just send it to Billboard Battalion, care of Pyramid Hill Post Office, Victoria 3575.
Pyramid Hill Post Office 3715.
3575.
3575. Right. Pyramid Hills Post Office. Beautiful. I will get that up. And
so just Billboard Battalion, care of Pyramid Hill Post Office.
I can't talk and type at the same time, and I can't spell battalion right.
Yeah.
And we will do that. Care of Pyramid Hill Post Office. Save that. And we should be able to show it there. Is that right?
Yeah, just no S on Hills.
Oh, all right. Pyramid Hill.
Anyway, it'll get through to them. They're not too fussy at the local post office. They figured out where Billboard Battalion was a couple of years ago without me saying anything to them.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to send a get well soon card, then that's the place to send it to. And you'll make sure that Wade gets that at the appropriate time. Billboard Battalion, care of Pyramid Hill, not Hills. I'll fix that in a minute. The post office at 3575. I better put post in the post office.
Just post office, not you left post
not
out as well.
Office. Yeah, I'm doing good, aren't I?
No, you're all good. It's hard while you're busy talking at the same time.
Yeah, you'd think after all these years of talking, I'd be able to do two things at the same time, but unfortunately,
doesn't work like that, does it?
Typical bloke. Unfortunately, don't have that skill or ability. And you'd think God gave me the boobs of a lady, so why couldn't He give me the abilities? I just don't know.
I think a lot of the time they don't manage the multiple things at once all that well. I shouldn't have
That's the
said that.
truth.
Shouldn't have said that on air, should I?
No, duck and weave. Duck and weave. Be very
Yeah.
careful what you say going forward from there.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Thanks
No
for
worries.
joining, and I'll keep in touch, obviously. And if you've got anything that you'd like to share from a Billboard Battalion perspective, mate, please consider the Voice of Freedom your show as well. Just come on whenever you need.
Yep.
Very happy to
no
help.
worries. Yep.
All right,
mate. Thanks,
You have a good
Carl.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
No worries. Thanks to Nick from Billboard Battalion for joining us tonight. And great to hear that Wade is getting the rehab that he needs and getting some good nutritious foods through too. And of course, if you want to send a card to cheer him up a bit, then we would obviously recommend you do that. And that is exactly the place you could send it. I think I've got it now. Billboard Battalion, care of Pyramid Hill Post Office 3575. That is in Victoria, for those of you who might be a little lost as to where directions we're talking about. What else has been happening in the wild world today? Well, the Australian government has been hit from pillar to post about fuel and the soaring prices of fuel. Of course, the Australian government will not cut the petrol excise, which at the moment is 51.9 cents out of every litre of fuel, plus the 10% GST that is charged on your purchase at the time as well. So the government have said they won't do that. There is clear reasons why they won't do that. The biggest reason is it would break them. Now, somebody did the maths on the fuel excise that they're getting simply on the amount of trucks that travel between Melbourne and Sydney in one day. 3,100 and something or other trucks on average travel between Melbourne and Sydney in one day. Working out their average fuel usage in those trips, that is around about $396,000 a day worth of fuel excise revenue off one freeway between Melbourne and Sydney. That's the Hume. That's not any of the other highways, not the Newell, not anything else that's going north, not anything that's going west, and certainly nothing that's going north. Now, there are many trucks every day traveling the same route, Sydney-Brisbane, Brisbane-Cairns, and all parts in between, and that's just around the coast. There are just as many going up the inland roads. Well, probably not at the moment, particularly through inland central Queensland, because it's bloody wet and people are being washed away left, right and centre. But you get the idea. So the government is making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in fuel excise every day, and yet the country is still in the position that it's in. The financial mismanagement that successive Labor governments have employed to put this country in the position that it is the reason we are now struggling. However, the struggle could be being overstated a bit. At the end of the day, if the Suez, I beg your pardon, if the Straits of Hormuz close because they've been mined or whatever, that is one-fifth of the entire world's oil. That means 80% of the oil is still getting through. 80% will be unaffected. Yes, accommodations might need to be made, but will that affect us? Well, it has affected us for no good reason so far. They've just been jamming the prices up on what they paid for these fuels 2 months ago, before they even got to Australia. I have heard that the companies that are shifting the fuels from predominantly, bearing in mind that Australia gets most of its fuel from Singapore and South Korea, Malaysia, Thailand. We don't get petrol at all through the Suez or through the Straits of Hormuz. Crude oil comes through there and goes to refineries where it gets refined into the other products that we need. So our, if you like, supply lines are unaffected at this point unless those big refineries that we deal through in the aforementioned countries cannot get their supply through. They get their supply from a variety of different distributors, if you like, in the Middle East, not all of whom are located in the Straits of Hormuz. They can access it from Saudi Arabia, for instance, and other places. So the supply of oil is going to keep going. America, of course, has now got all of Venezuela's oil as well, and they do have governments who haven't been stupid in getting rid of their refining capabilities. So America are going to be just fine, and they will be able to send fuel to us. Ordinarily, we would have fuel with the Americans. In fact, we did for a long time, had a fuel stockpile, a safety stockpile inside American fuel reserves. But a few years ago, the Labor Party sold them off for an amount that I'm led to believe is somewhere close to $186 billion. But were you told that? That was Australian fuel kept in reserve in America in case there was a supply line problem. But they sold it. And then when they sold it, as part of the agreement to sell it and take all that money, they agreed not to demand to have it filled back up again, so that we had another strategic reserve ready. That not one drop of Australian oil or fuel is now kept in America because we signed an agreement that said, no, it's okay, we'll sell you everything that we've got there and we'll not ask for it to be replenished at all, ever. Congratulations to the government again. They do make some enlightening decisions. So if you saw Topher Field yesterday, Topher came out very excitedly and announced that World War III was over before it began. And you could believe him when he said that, because he's been doing this for 17 years, looking after and doing this sort of political commentary and yada, yada, yada. He hasn't been doing much by way of military analysis, I don't think, in 17 years. Maybe in the last 17 years, he's been told a lot what to say by the kind of people that we, well, are familiar with him being told what to say. But yesterday, he certainly came out in vast support of the Zionists and the Yanks who are currently winning the war, apparently. Do you believe that? We are seeing a highly curated coverage of the war, inverted commas, a highly curated coverage. All the social media networks are banning anybody who is trying to throw up vision of civilian damages anywhere, be that in any of the city-states that have been attacked throughout the Middle East. Nobody in Iran is able to upload anything, we're led to believe, unless it comes through some form of Russian satellite or Wi-Fi system, and most of that is inoperative, we're led to believe, through Iran at the moment. But we're only led to believe that because the Americans or Bibi's Zionist mates have told us that. The idea that Topher was saying yesterday that World War III has been averted, and put off essentially forever is a very short-sighted view, and his analysis of why that would be the case is extremely short-sighted. His understanding clearly came from the Americans and the Zionists saying how good we are and how many things we're killing. But those exact same organizations are not allowing their own losses to come out. One of the big statements yesterday was that there is oil moving through the Straits of Hormuz, albeit, not huge amounts of traffic of ships, but there are ships transiting it. And then last night, that happened. That is what's left of two ships that were supposedly attacked by Iranian, well, they said gunboats or boats, small boats packed with explosives. America killed, according to them, all the small boats able to do that kind of attack in the first couple of days of the war. The minesweepers the mine layers that were going to be used by Iran yesterday, day before, to lay mines throughout the Straits. And we're hearing there might be a dozen mines in the Straits of Hormuz. But the 17 mine layers are now at the bottom of the Gulf. They won't be laying anything. Is that all the mine laying capability they have? Who knows? Iran's been building boats and all sorts of stuff for a long time. My bigger concern would be, do America, do Israel, do the United Kingdom, do the French have mine sweeping capabilities anymore? Australia doesn't. I think we got rid of our last mine sweepers about a decade ago. And yet, mining the Straits of Hormuz is still the safest way to block all traffic. Why? Because the actual strait itself, at its narrowest point, is about 2 miles wide. And it goes for a number of kilometers in a very narrow channel before it opens out again into the Gulf and gets a little bit deeper. And that's further up, well past Oman and getting up towards Kuwait and Iraq. Now, those 2 ships that were attacked supposedly by Iran, who have no capability left, according to TOFA. They've got nothing left to fly in the air. They've got nothing left to float on the sea. They've got nothing left on the ground to move around. They've lost all kinds of communications. And yet, apparently, these 2 boats, unclear yet whether they are cargo or oil tankers, although most reports seem to be oil, and yet we are not seeing huge oil slicks or the Gulf on fire. We might be seeing that. I haven't seen the news tonight. Maybe there are pictures of that. How then, if Iran has this capability to hit ships at anchor that far up in the Gulf, because those boats were hit just off Iraq. They were ready to load up, or were loading, or I don't think they were loading. They were parked side by side. So they were tied up alongside each other for company, waiting to get onto something more than anything else. And they were a clear target. Now, there has been another suggestion that it was some sort of submerged Iranian weapon that crept up on these boats, got underneath them, and blew them up. I've seen the video. I didn't capture it. I was still having computer issues, but I've seen the video of the actual strike, and it's certainly interesting the way where the explosion comes from. The explosion sort of appears to come from between the 2 ships, really, and I didn't see a missile strike or anything with it, so maybe it was a small boat. But if it is a submersible of some kind, that poses all sorts of problems for the Americans and the Zionists in the fight above, because they've got nothing they can put into the Straits of Hormuz or into the Gulf that will stop something like that. Now, while there will be submarines, and we know there's certainly a submarine floating around there somewhere because it blew the arse out of an Iranian ship off Sri Lanka a week ago, getting through the Straits of Hormuz in a submarine is not viable, not without being seen. And then you're going to be trapped in a submarine in a Gulf with one way in and one way out. Why would you want your submarine in there? Well, if you've got a submersible or multiple submersibles, these things are one-way travelers, obviously, then you're going to want to be able to track them underwater. You want to be able to blow them up. You don't necessarily want to be able to send one of your warships through there because, once again, it's 2 miles wide and very close to Iran. You would be eating missiles from Iran all day, even though TOFA says they don't have any left. If they didn't have any left, trust me, there'd be American boats escorting tanker after tanker after tanker in and out of those straits. Clearly, the intel that he was working off was lacking somewhere. Do you think that the Americans and the Israelis are having bad intel? They seem to be attacking Beirut, okay. Beirut was hit again today. They're attacking Hezbollah positions inside Beirut. I will be forthcoming and say that at least the Israelis are warning areas in Beirut that there will be strikes, and that if you're in those areas and you don't want to get killed, then get out. A bit like they did with Gaza. I feel for the people of Beirut and Lebanon, stuck between a rock and a very hard place. However, the war will not be over until Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations who have yet to stick their heads up in earnest and start fighting this war have made themselves apparent. And as somebody pointed out in the mainstream media today, now that Australia has sent a couple of wedge-tails over to Dubai or to the UAE to play a role in monitoring those attacks coming through, they will pick up the missile launchers, they'll pick up the rockets and all that sort of stuff. They'll be able to vector fighters and bombers in to decimate the launch areas of those places. But that also now means that Australia is in the fight. That means that the Australian base in Dubai that has hitherto not been struck, but the Americans, it's all in the one big airport, which is also a civilian airport. And that might mean that the Australian base there is now a fair target. And could that also mean that places like Darwin, which is, if not the largest, then the second largest fuel bank depository in Australia, if you like, I can't think of the name, fuel terminal. This is where vast amounts of the fuel that we get for this entire country get unloaded. The other place where huge amounts of it get unloaded is Mackay. And those are our main fuel banks, if you like, and from there, distributors move out across the nation. Of course, there is some that's kept in Sydney. There are little bits that are kept in Geelong, and they have fuel reserves for, obviously, the big ships down in Western Port and around Botany Bay and all that sort of thing. But our main infrastructure, our main fuel infrastructure, we are bleating at the moment like, hurt sheep. And all China has to do is say, oh, is that all we've got to do? We've just got to stop them getting access to their fuel. And we've got the country, because they would have. Do you think that puts a target on Darwin or Mackay? Far North Queensland in general? There are a couple of fuel ports further north as well. I would say we want to be a bit careful about all that. And like I say, we don't need to panic buy. It is 1/5 of the entire global oil production that is being influenced here. 1/5. 80% is untouched. Now, I've seen a lot of stuff today about how Australians are stockpiling fuel. Some idiot in South Australia, a politician, has come out and said, oh, people should be stockpiling fuel. There is no point in going and stockpiling fuel. You're only going to have to use it in a few weeks. Fuel goes off. Okay? So, and the hotter it is, further north you've got it. If you've got just sitting in your jerry cans and sitting in the tin shed out the back waiting for when you need to fill up the old FJ, then you're not going to be putting good fuel in your car in a month or 2 months' time. You're going to want to be using that fuel as fast as you can and make sure that you can replenish it down the track. Will you be able to? Well, by taking that much now, people going in and filling up IBCs. I saw a car and a trailer, or a picture of a ute with a trailer that had 9 44-gallon drums he expected to fill with diesel, plus his ute, I suppose. Now, there is no need for that sort of stupidity. What that does is it places a huge, huge, huge draw on our physical ability to get a truck from the depot to your local bowser. Because everybody is going in and buying 100 more litres a week or 50 more litres a week than the government. And the government is still responsible here, but they budget, if you like, or they work on having a certain pipe with a certain amount of fuel available to the nation flowing constantly. If there is something that impacts that and there is a ripple or a blockage, then that supply line feels it first. At the moment, we have no need for that supply line to feel it. Our fuel is still coming from Singapore. The fuel that we will be getting next month and the month after that, that's the fuel that will be impacted by the current price rises and whatnot that are happening out of the Middle East. Not now. So what did I pay today? I needed diesel today. I went and topped up the tank. 16 litres. I topped up my tank for 16 litres, and it cost me $47 for 16 litres of diesel. Just friggin' ridiculous. And when I went into the Ampol service station, there was a lovely girl behind the counter. I just thought I'd throw a little grenade over the counter. I said, "Oh, I hear your bosses are a bit worried." And she said, "Oh, yeah, why is that?" And I said, "Oh, I hear they're going to introduce prison sentences for fuel companies that raise the price of fuel and rip off the Australian public for no apparent reason." And she looked at me quite startled, and she said, "Oh, well, at least that's not me." And I said, "Well, no, you obviously work for Ampol, but," I said, "if you're an independent service operator and you own the servo, then yeah, it's you. If you decide you're just going to put it up and make an extra couple of cents a litre, or an extra 35 as it went up in one position yesterday, and while people were pulled up at the Bowser, an Indian fella came wandering out of this independent service station, turned off 2 of the 3 diesel Bowsers that were working, and then went back inside, changed the price of super diesel and put it up 35 cents, then came out and turned the Bowsers back on again. And there was a lineup of cars, 6 or 8 out the driveway for diesel. Those kind of things, when that's being done, you are going to find some very angry people turning up at your cash register, particularly if they've seen you do that. And if you are stockpiling fuel, it's something you probably want to keep to yourself, because those who haven't been and know you have been, well, they'll know how to find it too. They'll know exactly when to come and exactly when you're not there. So be very careful about stockpiling. Just try and buy fuel normally. Top it up, top your tank up if you're worried about, oh, look, I don't want to have to pay. Well, God, how much would it be if you had to pay 50 litres, pay for 50 litres of fuel, diesel, at $2.50? It's a bloody shitload of money. 16 litres was enough for me. It still cost $47. So take the top out of your tank and then top it up. That will do a few things. It'll give you peace of mind that should you need fuel for whatever reason, if it does become apparent that there is a shortage, you will have at least a week's worth of fuel in your car for your normal driving. Do you normally put a tank full of fuel in your car a week, or is it a tank a fortnight, or is it a tank a month? How much driving do you normally do? And if we are having this sort of problem with fuel, you won't be doing a lot of driving. The trips interstate to go and see family and friends will all of a sudden become extremely expensive from a fueling perspective. And then, of course, there's the cost of food and accommodation on the road. Accommodation will go up. Food and everything else will go up, obviously, given the nature of the way this country moves things around. It requires diesel. So my advice would be top up a little bit. You know, when you take the top out of your tank, when the needle starts to drop down, go and fill it up then. It won't be as hard on your pocket, and you will still have a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of fuel for whatever your normal driving period would be, ready to go. And who knows, in a week, 2 or 3, it might be all different and changed again, because, you know, Topher might come out and say, oh, Iran's won the war, there won't be a World War III. Because given what Donald Trump is currently saying to Israel and their associated friends, sorry, I beg your pardon, saying to Iran, please ceasefire. We want a ceasefire. We want to do the ceasefire thing. We don't want to pound you anymore. And what are Iran saying? They're not saying that to America as such. They are saying there will be no peace until there is no Israel. That may have been moderated somewhat because the new leader, the son of the old Ayatollah, has been injured and is in hospital, probably waiting for a missile to come through his roof in the very near future and get rid of him because he wasn't a great fan. So there is a president of Iran who has come out with a statement today. His name is Masoud, and he's outlined 3 conditions that he says must be met to end the current hostilities with the United States and Israel. And these are the only 3 things that will mean this can end. The first of those is recognizing Iran's legitimate rights. I imagine that's their sovereign rights, which at the moment are under severe threat. So recognizing Iran's sovereign legitimate rights is number 1 on the list. Then, because they were not the aggressors in this war, despite the propaganda that you will hear, I heard a bit today, where the Americans were being told, oh, Iran was about to launch a huge drone strike on California, would have decimated America. They were going to launch against California. Well, 2 things about that. First of all, it's California. We're all expecting to lose that anyway, aren't we? You know, and given the satanic people who tend to live there, is that a bad thing? No, that's awful. The second thing is, how were they planning on launching the drones? Probably from one of those aircraft carrier type ships that the Americans would have us believe they sank back in the Gulf a few days ago. That's why a lot of the drone attacks have decreased, because that World War II aircraft carrier size ship wasn't capable of launching them anymore because, well, aircraft don't launch very well when they're underwater. Do they have another one of those ships? And if America was so sure that a drone attack was going to be launched from the sea, because there's nothing else off the coast of California, what was going to launch it? Was it the boat that they blew up a week ago? And how was it going to get from where it was a week ago to off the coast of California to start firing its drones? It couldn't have done that. The timelines do not match up. I can't see how they could. So could there be some lies being told by somebody there? Well, there are only lies in war, aren't there? You can't believe the propagandists. You can't believe anything like that. So America, I think, are just about ready to say we've had enough for a variety of reasons. I don't think America has too many more missiles that they can use. I think they have depleted a huge amount of their weapon systems. And while I don't think will go terribly short, we are going to see older weapons come into play, less precise weapons come into play, less precise munitions, meaning more civilian casualties. But at this stage of the game, you don't have to worry about that because nobody's getting hurt. According to the US, there are only 8 deaths. My understanding is that in Bahrain alone, there were over 80 people killed when they took out the radome there. And in Qatar, a similar number were killed or injured. Mostly US staff. There are other indications from Israel that American and Israeli lives have been lost. Civilian lives in Israel certainly being lost. And have you seen downtown Tel Aviv recently? You seen any pictures during the day of what's left of the joint? No, but you did see the last time that social media was allowed to actually film out of Israel, you did see all those ballistic missiles raining down on the place freely, didn't you? Now, okay, hopefully a lot of those places were military bases and not civilian, but they did manage to kill a great deal of the Mossad leadership in one building in downtown Tel Aviv. They probably have targeted a number of buildings in downtown Tel Aviv because of their government and Zionist involvement. And there are civilians who've been caught in that. But are you hearing about it? No. Is Avi over there? No. Avi's here interviewing Iranians saying, oh, how bad life is in Iran. But he's not over there bringing factual reports back to Australians who might be concerned about friends and family in there. Are you going to tell me that he couldn't get to Israel if he wanted to? Sure he could. He's just going to ask you to pay for it. But he'd get there, and it's his opportunity to pick up the gun and go shooting again, except it's not really, is it? Because this time, the guys on the ground are not really close enough to go shooting the guys on the ground in Iran. They're going to need to get on a plane, jump out of it, parachute, get on the ground. It's a lot more dangerous, that kind of thing. Avi's been called up. They all have. Haven't seen him go back for it yet. Don't know what that says about him. Whether he's very smart or scared. Not quite sure. This is something we should all be watching closely over the next little while. OpenAI has ostensibly for a while been touted as the friend to the people with regards to the AI revolution. This one is more caring about the humans, if you like, supposedly. It doesn't seem to be that case anymore. The Pentagon has decided that they want to use it for mass surveillance of Americans, it says. But that's bullshit. The Americans can't keep their mass surveillance to themselves. Their mass surveillance means we're going to keep an eye on everybody. But they also wanted to include a certain option called lethal autonomy without human authorization. That would be giving AI the ability to kill humans based on what it thinks is going on. Terminator anyone? Anyone at all? If you're a sci-fi reader, if you have ever read Asimov, one of the greatest robot writers of his time. I think he started writing books in the 50s. Isaac Asimov, I want to say his name was. He is the father of robotics, if you like, or the thought of robotics. He's the man who came up with the principles of robotics and the laws where, robots can't hurt humans and can only work for humans, and or so they can't do us any harm. It goes against their prime directive. Well, seems that AI now is going to be used with lethal autonomy without human authorization. And it'll also have a go at you for your social credit score if you are not doing the right thing. And I know I'm running over time here tonight, but this is something I wanted to show you last night. The United States have a patent. They put it up in 2023. A wonderful patent. It is a self-repossessing car. You like that? In an example method, a first computer sends to a second computer a message pertaining to a notice of delinquency of a vehicle-related payment. That doesn't necessarily mean that your car payment's late. It might mean that your entertainment system payment is late, or your battery rental, or whatever it is that they deem into the future they're going to be able to charge you for and charge you through your vehicle for. The message will include a request to the individual, such as the purchaser or the lessee of the vehicle. And when that is acknowledged, nothing will happen. You'll pay your bill, I suppose, and you'll move on. But if you don't, the first computer may be associated with a finance company, a bank or a lender, and the second computer might be located in the vehicle or in your smartphone. Definitely in your smartphone, because your car will be running through an app, right? And so there'll be two computers, not one. It won't be an either or. A message will go to both those computers. Now, that message might say, we want you to pay us by such and such a time. And if you don't reply by such and such a time, you don't acknowledge that you're going to do that, then the computer is going to, in its second message, say, we're going to start turning shit off in your car, your entertainment system. We're going to keep the windows up. We're going to lock the car down completely so you can't even start it. And then if you don't pay, they will have the ability to send it a command to start and drive itself back to the repo company's headquarters or to a car park somewhere where a truck's there to pick it up and take it away. It doesn't need your input at all. The patent, which you saw the number at the top of the screen there, I urge you to go and have a look at this and read further about it. There are a number of drawings, but this gives you an idea of how this will work. So if you were a medically dependent type person, let's say, I don't know, you're a diabetic or you've got a heart problem and you need to get to hospital. Your car is the only one available and your son or daughter is there to drive you. But because you've been off your feet for a few weeks and you've missed a car payment, they have turned off your car. You can't get it. Well, your son, daughter, or you might be able to, through the app, convince them that you need the car because it's a medical emergency. And if you can convince them, they will be able to, through the network, reinitialize your vehicle and program it to be allowed to drive to the nearest hospital, where it will promptly lock itself again. Or if you are behind in your payments, I have no doubt will drop you at the emergency door and drive itself off to be repossessed. Now, because these documents are long and weird, the figures are on their sides here, but there are a number of things I urge you to go and have a bit of a look at here. They go through system methods and all that. Typically, the owner is uncooperative at the time where this thing might happen. They might try and attempt to impede repossession. In some cases, this can lead to confrontation. So they're going to take away any chance of confrontation. You're going to park your car out the front of your house because these days you won't be able to afford a house with a garage. And this will be the only saving grace. If you've got one of these late model vehicles and you park it outside in your driveway, you don't own that vehicle. You're just waiting for somebody. And you might have paid for it, right? Bear in mind, this software doesn't disappear if you've paid the car out and you own it. Well, do you own anything? But that software is still there. And what happens if someone hacks in to the bank, to the repo companies, to the whatever? Oh, all of a sudden, thieves won't be turning up and banging on your door or sneaking into your house to steal your car keys. They'll be just tapping into their local computer network and telling the car where to drive itself to so they can pick it up and flog it. All I can say, folks, is there are a couple of really good car auction sites. I would be Big Barry Hall, ex-AFL footballer. He's offering you the chance at the moment to win an HQ Monaro. No computers, big motor, lots of fuel. Love it. But you won't have any problems with computers. I mean, seriously, folks, if you are slightly mechanical and you've got a car wreck in the backyard that predates, or call it 1995 or 2000, 1995, I think, maybe 1990, you might be all right. If you've got something that predates 1980, get it running. Get it running as soon as you can. You may well be able to put an electric motor in it if you felt the urge. But get the car running, because you don't want anything that has that sort of compromised ability in your house. Think of every farmer who might have a tractor, a truck, a harvester, all sorts of equipment, and they have a bad season. All of a sudden, the whole farm starts up and drives itself out the front gate. No one to talk to, No bank to talk to because they're all closed. All this is done online with AI. Nothing else. We're going to have to push back, folks. We really are going to have to push back. I think I've probably talked enough tonight. I've still got a bit more stuff here I could go on with, but I'll let you go and enjoy your evening. You don't need to listen to me or hear me rant and rave too much longer tonight, I don't suppose. We will be back again Friday night, tomorrow night, with a bit from Vince, I am hoping. And I would point you out that tonight the girls... wonderful bunch. Real Talk Down Under. Becky O and the team from Truth Seekers have launched their first show tonight. It will be just about coming to an end over on the Rumble channel. If you want to sneak over and have a look at the ladies' first show, you can check it out at fbnmedia.online or the FBN Rumble site, I'm pretty sure, or YouTube site, FBN Media on YouTube. And if you can't find it there, then certainly Truth Seeker TV on Rumble. You'll be able to find it there too. But I'm pretty sure it's our first other show, if you like, up on FBN tonight as well. So thanks to the girls for getting together and putting it together. I haven't seen the show, so I'm going to get off here and go and check it out. Have yourself a great one. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. If you are on the roads, particularly in central Western Queensland, there is an awful lot of water. If it's flooded, forget it. I know sometimes trucks will drive through. Bear in mind that a truck has another half meter of height on you than you do. I watched an American couple yesterday drive through what must have been 3.5, 4 foot moving floodwaters following a truck, and they thought it was a great lark. That was in far north Queensland, where the crocodiles live in the water. Yeah, well, Americans, they like to go out in new and unique ways, don't they? Eaten alive on the Bruce Highway. All right, have yourself a good one. Be safe on the roads and watch those dickheads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!